The crystal chandelier above our dining table cast fractured light across my wife's cold face as she delivered the words that would change everything. "Pack your bags, David. If you can't respect my family's traditions, then maybe you don't belong here anymore." Her manicured fingers drummed against the mahogany table, the same table where I'd signed our prenup 5 years ago, foolishly believing love conquered all. My heart hammered against my ribs as I stared at Sarah, searching for any trace of the woman I'd married. Her emerald eyes, once warm with affection, now glittered with the same ruthless ambition I'd seen her mother wield like a weapon. The scent of her expensive perfume mixed with the lingering aroma of our untouched dinner, creating a nauseating cocktail of broken promises. "Sarah, please," I whispered, my voice cracking. "We can work through this." "I never meant to disrespect." "Enough!" She slammed her palm against the table, making the wine glasses tremble. "You embarrassed us at the charity gala. You questioned Father's business practices in front of the Hendersons. Do you have any idea what you've done?" The silence stretched between us like a chasm. Outside, rain began pelting the floor-to-ceiling windows of our penthouse, each drop echoing the tears I refused to shed. I thought of the homeless shelter where I'd volunteered that morning, of the grateful faces that reminded me why I'd become a social worker. Sarah's world of designer gowns and dirty money felt suffocating. "Fine," I said, standing slowly. "I'll pack." Her satisfied smile told me everything I needed to know about our marriage. My hands shook as I pulled clothes from our walk-in closet, each garment a reminder of the life I was leaving behind. The Italian suits Sarah had insisted I wear, the silk ties that felt like nooses around my neck. All of it represented a version of myself I'd never wanted to become. As I reached for my old college sweatshirt buried in the back, my fingers brushed against something unexpected. A manila envelope, thick with documents, hidden behind Sarah's evening gowns. My pulse quickened as I recognized the letterhead. Morrison and Associates, private investigators. The first photograph made my stomach lurch. Sarah, wrapped in the arms of Marcus Henderson, the same man whose family we'd supposedly offended at the gala. The timestamp showed last Tuesday, while I'd been working late at the community center. My vision blurred as I flipped through image after image, each one a dagger to my chest. But it was the financial documents that made my blood run cold. Bank statements showing massive transfers from her father's construction company to offshore accounts. Invoices for materials never delivered. Contracts with shell companies that didn't exist. The Henderson family wasn't just Sarah's affair partner's relatives. They were business partners in what looked like a massive money laundering operation. My legs gave out, and I collapsed onto the marble floor of our bedroom. The Persian rug beneath me cost more than most people made in a year, bought with blood money I'd been too naive to question. The walls seemed to close in as the magnitude of my discovery hit me. Sarah hadn't just betrayed our marriage, she'd made me an unwitting accomplice to corruption that stretched across the city's most powerful families. I sat in my beat-up Honda Civic outside a 24-hour diner, the envelope of evidence burning like fire in my lap. The neon sign flickered, open all night in electric blue, casting an otherworldly glow across my trembling hands. Steam rose from my untouched coffee as I spread the photographs and documents across the cracked vinyl booth. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "Don't bother coming back for anything else. I'll have it donated." The casual cruelty of her words ignited something primal in my chest, not just hurt, but righteous fury. I thought about Mrs. Rodriguez from the shelter, who'd lost her home when her husband's construction job disappeared overnight. About the families I counseled who couldn't afford basic necessities while Sarah dropped thousands on handbags. The weight of my complicity pressed down like a physical force. But then I remembered my friend Jake from law school, now working for the FBI's white-collar crime division. My fingers hovered over his contact information as doubt crept in. What if I was wrong? What if this destroyed innocent people along with the guilty? The diner's bell chimed as a homeless man entered, counting coins for coffee. The sight crystallized my resolve. This wasn't about revenge. It was about justice for everyone Sarah's family had stepped on to build their empire. I dialed Jake's number, my heart pounding as it rang. "Jake, it's David. I need to see you tonight. I have something that's going to blow your mind." The die was cast. There was no turning back now. Jake's apartment smelled like stale pizza and determination. His FBI credentials lay scattered across his coffee table alongside case files that painted a picture of organized corruption I'd never imagined. The bags under his eyes told me he'd been chasing these shadows for months. "Jesus, David," he whispered, examining the photographs under his desk lamp. "Do you realize what you've handed me? We've been trying to connect the Ashford family to the Henderson money laundering ring for 2 years. My stomach churned as he spread out a map of the city, marking construction sites with red pins. Each pin represented a project where corners had been cut, where safety regulations had been ignored, where workers had been cheated. Sarah's father's company was at the center of it all. "The Riverside Elementary collapse last year," Jake said, pointing to a newspaper clipping. 12 kids injured because they used substandard concrete. Your wife's family saved $50,000 and nearly killed children. The room spun around me as the full scope of their crimes became clear. I'd been living off blood money while preaching about social justice. The irony was suffocating. "There's more," Jake continued, pulling out surveillance photos. "We think they're planning something big, a city contract worth $200 million. If they get it, they'll own half the municipal government." My phone buzzed with another text from Sarah. "Hope you're enjoying your freedom. Some people aren't meant for the big leagues." I showed Jake the message, and his expression darkened. "She has no idea what's coming. But David, once we move on this, your life will never be the same. Are you ready for that?" I thought of those injured children, of Mrs. Rodriguez, of every person crushed under the Ashford family's greed. "I'm ready." The next morning felt surreal as I sat in an unmarked FBI van, watching my former life through surveillance monitors. Sarah emerged from our penthouse building in her red Maserati, designer sunglasses hiding what I hoped was at least a trace of remorse. But her confident stride told me she felt untouchable. Agent Martinez adjusted her headset as Sarah's phone calls came through the wire. "She's confirming the Henderson meeting for tonight. They're moving forward with the municipal contract bid." My chest tightened as I heard Sarah's voice, cold and calculating as she discussed bribing city officials like ordering lunch. This wasn't the woman who'd cried watching romantic comedies, who'd once volunteered at animal shelters before her family's influence corrupted her completely. "Target is approaching the construction site," Martinez announced. Through the monitor, I watched Sarah's car pull into Ashford Construction's headquarters, a gleaming tower built on the suffering of others. Jake handed me a fresh cup of coffee, his expression sympathetic. "You sure you want to watch this? It's going to get ugly." But I needed to see. I needed to understand how deep the rot went, how many lives had been destroyed by the family I'd almost become part of. The surveillance footage showed workers in unsafe conditions, inspectors being handed envelopes of cash, city officials shaking hands with known criminals. My phone rang. Sarah's name flashed on the screen. "Answer it," Jake instructed, activating the recording equipment. "Act normal. We need her to incriminate herself." My hand trembled as I accepted the call, knowing that every word would seal her fate, and mine. "David, darling." Sarah's voice dripped with false sweetness through the phone. "I hope you're not planning anything foolish. You know how messy divorces can get when people don't cooperate." The threat was crystal clear, but Jake's encouraging nod gave me strength. "What do you want, Sarah?" "I want you to remember who you're dealing with. My family has connections you can't imagine. If you try to cause trouble, you'll find yourself facing charges for embezzlement. After all, you did sign those financial documents as my husband." My blood turned to ice. She was right. My signature was on dozens of papers I'd trusted her to handle. They'd planned this contingency all along. "You're threatening me." I managed to keep my voice steady despite my racing heart. "I'm protecting us both. Come home, apologize for your behavior at the gala, and we can pretend this little tantrum never happened. Otherwise..." She paused dramatically. Well, let's just say the homeless shelter you love so much might lose its funding, permanently. The line went dead, leaving me staring at the phone in horror. Jake's expression was grim as he reviewed the recording. She just confessed to conspiracy, bribery, and witness intimidation, he said. But David, she's not bluffing about the charges. We need to move fast. Through the surveillance monitor, I watched Sarah enter her father's office, her body language radiating confidence. She had no idea that her own words had just provided the final piece of evidence the FBI needed. How long do we have? I asked. 6 hours until they submit the municipal bid. After that, they'll own the city. The FBI raid began at sunset, painting the sky blood red as federal agents swarmed Ashford construction like avenging angels. I watched from the surveillance van as Sarah's perfect world crumbled in real time, each arrested executive another nail in the coffin of her family's empire. My phone exploded with panicked calls from Sarah, her composed facade finally cracking. David, what have you done? They're arresting everyone. My father, Marcus, even the mayor. Agent Martinez smiled grimly as she monitored the communications. 18 arrests so far. The Henderson family, 3 city councilmen, and half the planning commission. This is the biggest corruption bust in the city's history. Through the office windows, I could see Sarah frantically shredding documents while FBI agents pounded on her door. Her designer dress was wrinkled, her perfect hair disheveled, the mask of superiority finally slipping to reveal the desperate criminal beneath. The irony is beautiful, Jake said, watching her futile attempts to destroy evidence. She threw you out to protect her secrets, but keeping you close would have given her leverage. Her own arrogance destroyed her. The office door splintered as agents breached the room. Sarah's scream of rage echoed through the surveillance equipment as handcuffs clicked around her wrists. The woman who'd once commanded respect through fear now looked small and pathetic, her empire reduced to rubble in a single afternoon. Mrs. Ashford, you're under arrest for conspiracy, money laundering, bribery, and racketeering, the lead agent announced. As they led her away, Sarah's eyes found the surveillance camera, and for a moment, I swore she was looking directly at me. The hatred in her gaze could have melted steel, but I felt only pity for the woman who'd chosen greed over love. The news broke like a tsunami across the city. Ashford Empire collapses. Massive corruption ring exposed by whistleblower. I sat in my small studio apartment, a far cry from the penthouse, but it felt like freedom, watching reporters swarm the construction sites where corners had been cut and lives endangered. My phone hadn't stopped ringing. Reporters, lawyers, old friends who'd suddenly remembered my existence. But the call that mattered most came from Mrs. Rodriguez at the shelter. David, mijo, I saw the news. Are you okay? Her genuine concern brought tears to my eyes. While Sarah's wealthy friends had abandoned her the moment scandal hit, this woman who had nothing offered everything she could. Compassion. I'm okay, Mrs. Rodriguez. Better than okay. The financial recovery was staggering. The FBI had frozen over $200 million in assets, money that would be returned to defrauded contractors, injured workers, and the families who'd suffered from the Ashfords' greed. The homeless shelter would receive a substantial settlement from the recovered funds. Jake arrived with pizza and updates. Sarah's plea hearing is tomorrow. Her lawyer's pushing for a deal, but the evidence is overwhelming. She's looking at 15 to 20 years. I thought I'd feel satisfaction, but instead, I felt hollow. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about justice for people who'd never had a voice. The city's reviewing every contract the Ashfords touched, Jake continued. They're rebuilding Riverside Elementary with proper materials this time. Those kids will finally have a safe school. That news warmed me more than any victory over Sarah ever could. The courthouse steps were a circus of reporters and protesters as I made my way to testify. Signs reading, "Justice for Riverside," and "Lock them up," created a sea of righteous anger that had been building for years. The families of injured workers stood alongside community leaders, their presence a powerful reminder of what this trial really meant. Inside, Sarah sat at the defendant's table in an orange jumpsuit, her designer clothes replaced by the great equalizer of the justice system. She'd lost weight, her face gaunt and hollow, but her eyes still burned with defiant rage when they met mine. "Mr. Chen," the prosecutor began, "please tell the court about your discovery of the evidence that led to this investigation." My voice was steady as I recounted finding the envelope, the photographs, the financial documents that revealed the scope of their crimes. Sarah's lawyer objected repeatedly, but the evidence was ironclad. "Did you have any knowledge of your wife's criminal activities during your marriage?" "None whatsoever. I was deliberately kept in the dark, used as an unwitting cover for their operations." During cross-examination, Sarah's lawyer tried to paint me as a vengeful ex-husband, but the jury saw through the desperation. The evidence spoke louder than any character assassination. When Sarah took the stand in her own defense, her testimony was a masterclass in deflection and denial. She blamed her father, claimed ignorance, even suggested I had planted evidence. But when confronted with her own recorded words threatening me and the shelter, her composure finally shattered. "You don't understand," she screamed at the prosecutor. "People like you, like him," she pointed at me, "you'll never understand what it takes to stay on top." The courtroom fell silent. In that moment, Sarah had revealed her true self to everyone. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. I spent that time walking the city streets, visiting the places that had been touched by the Ashfords' corruption. The construction site where a worker had fallen due to faulty equipment. The community center that had been denied funding because they wouldn't pay bribes. The elementary school where children had been injured. Each location told a story of human cost, of lives disrupted by greed. But I also saw signs of renewal, new construction with proper oversight, community programs funded by recovered assets, families beginning to heal. When the call came that the jury had reached a verdict, my hands shook as I made my way back to the courthouse. The crowd had grown larger, families holding photos of loved ones who'd been hurt by the conspiracy. "On the charge of conspiracy in the first degree, we find the defendant guilty." Sarah's face went white as the verdicts continued. "Guilty on all counts, 15 years in federal prison, with no possibility of parole for 8 years. Her father received 25 years. Marcus Henderson got 12. As the judge read the sentences, I felt a strange mixture of relief and sadness. Justice had been served, but at what cost? A marriage destroyed, a family empire crumbled, lives forever changed. Sarah was led away in shackles, but not before she turned to look at me one final time. The hatred was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like regret. Too little, too late. Outside the courthouse, Mrs. Rodriguez hugged me tightly. "You did the right thing, mijo. Those children at Riverside can sleep safely now because of you." That's when I finally allowed myself to cry, not for Sarah, but for all the people who'd suffered while I lived in ignorant luxury. 6 months later, I stood in the rebuilt Riverside Elementary, watching children play in a playground built with honest money and proper safety standards. Their laughter echoed off walls that wouldn't crumble, their joy a testament to the power of truth over corruption. The homeless shelter had expanded into 3 buildings, funded by the recovered assets from the Ashford Empire. Mrs. Rodriguez now served as the director, her wisdom and compassion touching hundreds of lives. The irony wasn't lost on me. Sarah's greed had ultimately funded the very causes she'd despised. My phone buzzed with a text from Jake. "Sarah's appeal was denied. She'll serve the full sentence." I felt no satisfaction, only a quiet sense of closure. The woman I'd married was gone, replaced by someone consumed by avarice and entitlement. Perhaps she'd been that person all along, hidden beneath designer clothes and practiced charm. My new apartment was small but filled with genuine warmth. Photos of shelter families lined the walls instead of expensive art. Books on social justice replaced coffee table displays of wealth. Every item had meaning, purpose, connection to something larger than myself. The doorbell rang, and I opened it to find a young woman holding a manila envelope. "Mr. Chen, I'm Rebecca Martinez, Agent Martinez's daughter. I'm starting law school next fall, inspired by what you did. I wanted to thank you." As she walked away, I realized the true victory wasn't Sarah's downfall. It was the ripple effect of courage. One person's decision to speak truth to power had inspired others to fight for justice. The sunset painted the city in golden hues as I looked out my window. Somewhere, Sarah sat in a cell, finally paying for her crimes. But here, in the real world, children played safely, families found shelter, and hope flourished where corruption had once reigned. I'd lost a wife, a fortune, and a life of luxury. In return, I'd found my soul.